Kính thưa quý vị khán thính giả của chương trình PhoBolsaTV, hôm nay là ngày 28 tây tháng 4 năm 2015. Chúng tôi vẫn đang cùng với đoàn cựu nhà báo quốc tế tới thăm Việt Nam lần này. Sau bữa trưa ở một nhà hàng ở Củ Chi, chúng tôi sẽ tiếp xúc với ông Lance Woodruff, là một nhà báo trong thời kỳ chiến tranh Việt Nam. Chúng ta sẽ tìm hiểu câu chuyện của ông như thế nào. Hello, Lance, chào ông.
Chào anh. Chào anh.
Can you say chào PhoBolsaTV, please?
Chào PhoBolsaTV.
Yeah, chúng ta
hân hạnh gặp ông.
Ông nói là chào PhoBolsaTV, chắc cũng không cần phải dịch. Hân hạnh gặp ông. Chúng ta sẽ bắt đầu vào câu chuyện với ông.
As an American, I was introduced to Vietnam when I was 11 years old in 1954. My classroom teacher in small town Ohio brought in a radio to listen to the siege of Dien Bien Phu. And what I learned at age 11 was that if Vietnamese people were successful in expelling the French, civilization would come to an end, that Western civilization would end. And, young kids can be very impressionable. When I went to Vietnam as a journalist in 1966, 12 years later, I found a different Vietnam. I went to Vietnam as a country, even though it seems to me that most Americans see Vietnam as a war, not as a country. But I was fascinated with the country, and the more I read about Vietnam and the more I looked, talked with people and saw what was going on, my ideas changed. At first, I believed in the intention and the integrity of the U.S. involvement in Vietnam, but eventually I lost faith in that. I'm a Protestant. I worked for American churches, writing articles about religious volunteers from different denominations in the U.S. and Canada. So my stories were sent all around the U.S. in a hard copy press package to about 1,500 newspapers during the 60s.
Have you got a chance to come to the front line and cover the story in the front line when the battle really happened?
I never went exactly to the front line. One time I went with I forget the Vietnamese name. The acronym is XDNT, the Saigon troops that dressed in black pajamas and masqueraded as Viet Cong to go into the area. So I went with one mission that way in Chao Phu in 1966, going into a village, but one time I was in an aircraft over near the Ho Chi Minh Trail. When my aircraft, I was with a Skyraider dive bomber, and there was a distress call. A U.S. helicopter had been shot down, and we went, and the helicopter was between three North Vietnamese artillery positions. The Skyraider is a dive bomber. It didn't have any bombs left. It had already done its work when we were called. So the pilot flew his aircraft toward the guns, and I saw people on the ground shooting at us. I saw the tracers go by. I thought I was dead for sure, that I would not come from that, because a dive bomber has a very high intensity, about 6 Gs when force of gravity when it comes out of the dive. So I threw up a lot in that. I didn't do anything heroic except take pictures. But one picture, I took one picture out of the cockpit of a bomb blast rise, the fumes rising into the sky. I showed to a North Vietnamese soldier 20 years later, outside of Hanoi. I was in a Vietnamese military reservation, Kings Island Golf Course. And a young man spoke to me, said, "When did you take that picture on the Ho Chi Minh Trail?" I said, "March 1967. He said, "You know, my father died on the Ho Chi Minh Trail in March 1967. We were in a boat. We were going halfway across the lake. He was charged to deliver me across the lake. He stopped the boat. He stared at me, said, 'My father, I never met my father. My father died on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. I was never able to see him. But you Americans killed my father.' And he looked at me. He had stopped the boat. He looked at me. He glared at me. We sat there for 10 minutes in the middle of the lake with him staring at me and me looking back at him. What could I say? Did I kill his father? No, but maybe the plane I was in? Probably not, but something to think about. It's very disturbing."